This is the August Council meeting being held on the 26th of August, and the Council meeting will commence in 1 minute's time. With the time being 6 p.m, welcome to the August Blayney Shire Council meeting. This council meeting is being live streamed and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to being live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting, that you ensure you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Blayney Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. A recording will also be made and published on the council YouTube channel. As all the councillors are here, there are no apologies or applications for video link. Now to the acknowledgement of country. And Blayney Shire Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri people and recognise the strength, resilience and capacity of Aboriginal people in this land. Council celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal people and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of Blayney Shire Council. Disclosures of interest, and councillors and staff are reminded of their oath or affirmation, that's the councillors, of office made under the Section 233 of the Local Government Act and their obligations under the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. General Manager, are there any disclosures of interest by councillors or staff?
Through Mr Mayor, at this point in time I have one disclosure of interest, and it's from myself, Mark Dicker, the General Manager. Today's meeting date, the 26th of August 2025. The report title is Contract 40/2025 Construction of Richards Lane Upgrade. Item 27, page 183. The reason for the interest is my private, in brackets primary, residence is on Springvale Lane, Millthorpe. Springvale Lane directly adjoins Richards Lane, noting my property entrance is some 820 metres from Richards Lane. It's non-pecuniary, less than significant, and whilst it is that, I will still leave the meeting and not participate in any of the confidential section of the meeting.
Just checking with the councillors, are there any other conflicts of interest to disclose? To the public forum, and do we have any public speakers tonight?
No, Mr Mayor, we don't.
Just before I go into the mayoral minutes, could I suggest someone actually opens the door, because it's a legal requirement to have one of those doors open at the council meeting. By the looks of it, we don't have any wedges. Thank you, General Manager. To the first item of business tonight, and it is a mayoral minute, and it's related to the recognition of Blayney High School students for their receiving the New South Wales Minister for Education's Award, and it is noted, so Mr Toby Tyrrell and Miss Ella Sinclair have both received that award, and it is in particular amazing because it was 2 students out of I think 40. So as the Mayor, I will move that mayoral minute as a recommendation. And just like to acknowledge the excellence in with the Blayney High School and 2 students actually receiving recognition with those awards. And it's not just academic, it's also leadership and commitment to community, just some of the criteria. Both those students have done an exceptional job, so well done to the 2 students. Any other discussion with regard to this mayoral minute? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 2, Commonwealth Financial Assistance Grant Allocations to Blayney Shire Council for 25-26. The report came to me as the Mayor late last week. There's a recommendation that we note the grant allocations for the Shire. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goswich has moved that way. Councillor Scott has seconded that. Any discussion with regard to the allocation, which at least is up 4.54%, but frustratingly is not up at the state average of 4.65%. So slightly below the state average, even though we did have a growth in population in Blayney Shire in the that 12-month period that the analysis is done on. But I suppose some increase is better than no increase across the Shire. General Manager, have you got any idea why we were below the state average, or it's just the formula? Mic on.
Through Mr Mayor, no, I don't know.
Any questions from councillors? And actually, I should have moved it as a mayoral minute. Apologies. So change it from Councillor Goswich and Scott to Councillor Reynolds as it's a mayoral minute. Any other discussion on it? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Moving to item number 3, the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 22nd of July 2025. A recommendation there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Scott and Councillor Johnston. Is there any discussion or issues with the minutes? If everyone's happy, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Any matters arising, councillors, out of the minutes from the last council meeting? If not, we'll move on to item number 4, the organisational structure. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Goswich and Councillor Newstead. Councillors, any discussion with regard to the organisational structure put forward by the General Manager? If there's no discussion, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Councillors, item number 5, council meeting dates. There's a recommendation there with dates that run from October through till September of 2026. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goswich, Councillor Hutchings has seconded that. Discussion with regard to the meeting dates, and thanks to the General Manager to get them out for the next 12 months so that we can put them into our diaries. No discussion. They're all proposed for a Tuesday. There's a couple of them that won't be the 4th Tuesday. That will be the 3rd Tuesday, I think it is. All 3. It's over the November and December council meetings. Outside of that, it's late in each month. If there's no further discussion, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. No, item number 6 is the first of 4 motions that we're proposing to put to Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference. There's a recommendation there in 2 parts. Do I have a mover, councillors? Councillor Newstead has moved that way and Councillor Scott has seconded it. Councillors, any discussion with regard to this recommendation, which is looking at the impact of mining, and in particular, this council lost, I think it was around about $4 million a year in grant income when the when the mining resources for regions funding was removed under the current government. This council again is trying to find a way to actually receive some of the royalties, and I think for Cadia it could be up around $100+ million the state government takes in royalties from the Cadia Valley. The last figure I saw was, I think it's around 75 million, but the price of gold since then has gone through the roof. And it's probably not quite doubled, but probably gone up about 30%. And it's, as far as I understand, the royalties is on a percentage basis. So it's likely to be well over $100 million that's going to the state government, and this council gets zero back directly, where we used to get around about that $4 million for the last couple of years of the resources for the regions funding. So, councillors, do you have any other discussion? Councillor Newstead.
Yeah, just quickly, Mr. Mayor, do you get to speak to this motion at the conference?
So the motion will be put to, as in, if it's put to conference, and again, there may be some similar motions, and our motion might be put as a secondary motion underneath another motion, or our motion could be the lead motion. So I can move a secondary motion, but if it's someone else's motion, you generally like them to move it. So I'm happy to second a motion along similar lines. But if there is no debate, then there's actually, you don't get to speak. So if there's no one against it, if all the councils are in favour of it, then it just goes through undebated and they move on to the next motion because there's no opposition. I think that's how it's termed, and then they move to the next motion. Does that answer your question? Yep. Any other questions with regard to this, which does have a huge financial impact on our Shire, and I know this council is trying to come up with other ways to try and put to the state government to fund the impact of mining, and mining does have a big impact, and particularly on a number of our residents across the Shire. Roads, it has a big impact with large volumes of traffic travelling to and from that mine. So there are impacts, and we're trying to actually highlight them back to the state government through the local government conference. If there's no further discussion, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. To item number 7, LG New South Wales Annual Conference motion, State Significant Developments. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Scott has moved that way and Councillor Hutchings has seconded that. Councillors, is there any discussion? It's a very long recommendation, and may I highlight there are 3 other councils in the region that have also, I think, yes, they've all carried this recommendation, so that being Lithgow, which I think had a meeting last night, Oberon and Bathurst. So we probably won't be the lead council with this one, but we are supporting because renewable energy, and as you're aware, there are new renewable projects being proposed for this LGA as we speak. So it's again important to support our neighbours who have got much bigger projects, but there could be other projects, and I have heard potentially of at least one other wind project that might eventually see the light of day. At the moment it hasn't, but is proposed within the Blayney Shire LGA. Councillors, any further discussion with regard to this? This is more a support motion, but we are impacted as well. If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. To item number 8, again another motion with regard to PFAS support. There is a recommendation there of the motion that we're proposing to put forward and some background material. Do I have a mover? Councillor Scott, I think, and Councillor Hutchings. Councillor Goswich, actually, so apologies. Councillor Scott, Councillor Goswich. Debate or discussion with regard to support for the PFAS issue that we have at the waste facility and gaining support at a state level. I'm sure there will probably be other PFAS recommendations put forward to the conference, given the amount of media that's, in particular the Blue Mountains, but there are other parts of the state as well. Any discussion or comment with regard to this? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 9, This is also the last of 4 recommendations fixing country bridges program as a motion to the LG New South Wales Conference. Do I have a mover? Councillor Newstead has moved that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goswich. Councillors, discussion, or would you like a little bit of a clarification about the bridges, councillors? We can ask the director if you would like one. If not, if there's no need for clarification, any other discussion? As in, we're just trying to get composite bridges in particular, but also to get some funding for repairs to, like the Carcoar Bridge in the centre of Carcoar Village, to maintain that timber bridge, is the idea of this motion. If there is no further discussion, all in favour say aye. Against, carried. Councillors, item number 10, report on council investments as of the 31st of July 2025. 2 points to the recommendation there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Scott has moved that way and Councillor Hutchings has seconded that. Do I have any discussion or questions from the councillors? As there's silence, I will ask a question from the chair. Being an observant accountant, I have noticed there is a different outcome with the financial position compared to the 30th of June through the General Manager to the Director. Is there a reason why? I think it's about $103,000 from what was reported at the end of June to now, on why that change?
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you for the question. In reference to the difference between the June investments figure and the financial statements being the $103,000, that was represented by post-year end adjustments. So they're effectively transactions that occurred on 30 June or relate to that date, noting that when we prepare these reports, we're preparing them based on the balances on that day. So that's why we've had that adjustment.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions or comments with regard to this report? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Item number 11, adoption of Code of Meeting Practice, and there is a recommendation there to adopt the code, including the Council's Policy Register. Do I have a mover? Councillor Scott, Councillor Hutchings. Discussion with regard to this item. If there is no discussion, I do have a question of the General Manager. The General Manager has been highlighting that he's going to come out with a new model code. Is there any word on when he may come out with this?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it has been sitting on his desk for a while now, and OLG got to the point where they advised councils to put their existing ones out or reviewed ones out because they don't know when that updated Code of Meeting Practice would be finalised.
Thank you, General Manager. So it's a wait and see, and then my assumption would be once there is a new code out there that we would then have to review the code within a particular time period once it's finalised.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't know. Once there'd be guidance provided by OLG once the matter is finalised, and we would follow that process.
Thank you, General Manager. Any further discussion on this item? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 12, 6-month delivery program review, June 2025. A recommendation there. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goswich and Councillor Newstead have moved and seconded that. Councillors, any questions or discussion with regard to this delivery program? As there is silence, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 13, review of the Delegations Register. A recommendation there that Council adopt the Delegations Register as attached to this report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Scott, seconder. Councillor Hutchings. Councillors, any discussion with regard to the delegations register? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 14, a draft statement of financial reports by Council for 24-25. I'm going to move it from the chair and add an extra dot point 9, which I have provided to staff. So could we have dot point 9 put up on the screen, please? Thank you. So I'll read dot point 9 as dot points 1 to 8 were already on public display with the business paper. Item dot point 9, for greater transparency and to facilitate better understanding of the financial reports, including statement of performance measures, consolidated results H1-1 and statement of performance measures by fund H1-2. So that's H1-2 in the reports and H1-1 in the financial reports. So do I have a seconder? Councillor Goswich has seconded that, so we can discuss. The reason for me adding a dot point 9 is the Audit Office have suggested that we actually take out the ratios. There are 6 important ratios that we have on one measure, and then there's, I think it's 3 or a number on another measure. And with regard to the 6 in particular, it does show how our council is performing against a benchmark figure. If we add this in, then we can leave those in and report to our community, so we want to be transparent out to our community. If we don't include this in the report, then we're not permitted to actually have those in the financial reports. And I think it's important that we are transparent to our community. And so for that reason, I ask councillors for support to include item number 9 or dot point 9. Any other discussion with regard to the financials? Councillor Scott.
Through you, Mr Mayor, more a comment just in relation to number 8 and just for the general public's information as well. I think this number 8 is extremely important, not only for our councils, but we've seen with a lot of councils going forward, we're in a fairly good position at the moment, but we never know what's coming. So I think it's very responsible to have this set up just in case of bumps in the road coming forward, especially with certain issues that we don't know what the outcome's going to be.
Thank you for highlighting that, Councillor Scott. And just to elaborate on that, one of those bumps in the road is the projected rate revenue from Regis. And as the community knows, that project is on hold at this stage because of a Section 10 declaration under the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Act. And so we have projected some rate revenue moving forward. So this is pertinent to put that aside so that our financials are still covered, particularly for capital works projects moving forward, so we can continue for a period of time till about 2031, I think it is, with a reasonable amount of capital works projects to maintain our road network and our footpath network and our buildings, etc. So it's pertinent to put it away at the moment for that rainy day, and that first bump is only a year or two away. Councillors, any other comments with regard to the financials and the financial report, which is a draft, and that we will formally send it off, myself and I think it's the Deputy Mayor sign off on it, and then we send it off to the auditors who are already in the building, I believe, having a look at the moment. So, and it's good to note that we had a very small surplus, and I stipulate the word very small surplus, but that was because of the sewerage fund. If you just looked at the general fund, we actually had a small deficit in the general fund, which is probably the more important fund because that funds pretty well most of our operations. So, but a small deficit compared to the projection, which was, I think, originally about at 1.5 million. So, again, a good outcome, and again, that's come through some staff efficiencies, I suppose you could say, that the staff have undertaken to try and get us to close to break even as possible, while still delivering. And I think that's very, very important to our community, that we are getting out there and delivering on everything from roads through to footpaths, through to buildings, through to sporting facilities, the centre point, etc., and making first-rate facilities. And really, and our parks and gardens are really, really looking good, and we've done a little bit of an extension, etc., right through to table drain management. And I'll probably get the most feedback on the little bit of work we do on table drains, because it's very, very obvious, and particularly on some of the flatter Millthorpe and even around Lyndhurst sort of country where the water just lays because it's just like a table. So in doing those table drains, it's improved the road condition, but the community can actually see us getting on and delivering. Councillors, would you like to add anything else to this report before we vote on it? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Moving to item number 15, adoption of the 25-26 carryover works. And there are 3 recommendations there. Just wait for the screen to catch up. Okay, so do I have a mover? Councillor Newstead has moved that way. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hutchings. Councillors, any discussion or questions about this item? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 16, adoption of draft strategic work plan. Recommendation there about adopting that draft Audit Risk and Improvement Committee strategic work plan, which is a good document, but do I have a mover for a start? Councillor Goswich and Councillor Scott has seconded it. Councillors, discussion about the work plan for the internal audit. Oh, sorry, the ARIC work plan. And my understanding was ARIC was very happy with the proposed work plan, but it also gives some guidance to staff on what the work plan is for the time period in question. If no discussion, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Now to item number 17, minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 14th of August 2025. Do I have a mover for the 6 recommendations? Councillor Goswich has moved that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hutchings, I think, got there first. Councillors, discussion with regard to the ARIC minutes. If there's no discussion, I do have a question through the General Manager to the Director. Dot point 4, note the inclusion of the councillors' facilities and expenses and the review of the risk arrangements in the strategic internal audit plan once each council term. But with regard to reviewing, as in, it doesn't really elaborate here, it's just councillor facilities and expenses. Does the Director actually know what the terms of reference for that review are currently are, or are we looking at policies and whether they're being implemented, or what, Director?
Through Mr Mayor, thank you for the question. The actual scope hasn't been developed for that, but from discussion in the committee meeting, it was around, it's effectively a compliance with council's policies and processes, and the recommendation for it to be conducted once each council term was around transparency and I suppose good council hygiene in being open to the community. So, but insofar as the scope, that detail hasn't actually been finalised at this point.
And a supplementary through the General Manager to the Director, the councillor costs are in the annual report and also in the financials, aren't they? So the public can actually look at how much the councillors are remunerated, both through remuneration but also through expenses.
Through Mr Mayor, correct.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillors, any other questions with regard to the ARIC minutes? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Councillors, on item number 18, adoption of Community Financial Assistance Policy. 2 recommendations there, or 2 points to the recommendation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Scott has moved that way. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Newstead. Any discussion with the Community Financial Assistance Policy? And there were a couple of submissions that were noted and answered. Councillor Goswich.
Thank you, Mayor Reynolds. I'd just like to thank the people for putting submissions in. It was good reading, and also probably helped us get towards a policy. It's a very dry subject, but at least a couple of constituents out there actually took the time to actually forward some information forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goswich. While it might be a dry subject, it's also an important subject because financial assistance grants do help a lot of our community groups support. So, any other discussion with regard to the policy? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 19, lease of industrial land for adjustment purposes. 2 points to the recommendation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Goswich has moved that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hutchings. Any discussion with regard to these leases? Councillor Goswich.
Thank you. The only question I have through to the Mayor to the Director is there any more land available if people are interested in still leasing council land?
Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So as the report indicates, there were 2 parcels that were surrendered by the lessee, awarded the lease originally in February, one of which is being allocated tonight, being tender lot 6. So tender lot 7, which is at the sale yards paddocks in Marshall's Lane, is still currently available and will continue to be listed.
Any other discussion with regard to item 19? Lease? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 20, 2025-26 road allocation and capital works prioritisation. A long list of projects, but there's a recommendation to note the allocation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Scott, Councillor Hutchings. Discussion with regard to the allocations with the resealing, heavy patching, gravel resheeting, footpath renewal and urban stormwater renewals. A very big capital program. If not, I will make one quick comment. Some positive feedback already with regard to the gravel resheeting and Spring Hill Road. Positive feedback there. It's a large amount of money to fix up just over 2 kilometres of Spring Hill Road, but 171,000. But it was pretty well back to clay. There was no gravel on the road. So one of the many gravel resheeting programs, and there's still some money if we do get bad storms and there is damage in some part of the Shire. We do still have some funds. I think it's about 76,000 that are allocated there for gravel road works. It'll be allocated later in the season if we don't have any damage. If we do, we can actually go and try and repair those. Councillors, any other questions or comments with regard to this report? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 21, Infrastructure Services Monthly Report. Now there's a recommendation there, and I'd like to add a dot point 4 to this recommendation, if that can be put up on the screen. So do I have a seconder? Councillor Goswich has seconded that. And I'll now explain. To approve the capital expenditure supplementary vote of $150,000 from the Flyers Creek Voluntary Planning Agreement Fund to the 25-26 operational plan for Council's heavy patching budget to fund heavy patching works on Browns Creek Road. So the explanation of why Browns Creek Road, as in it's within the Flyers Creek Voluntary Planning Agreement area, so it's comes under roadworks, and we do take so much in the Voluntary Planning Agreement each year for roadworks, so this is putting money back into that particular road, which leads to some of the towers in the Browns Creek Road area, which I think goes onto the Gap and then the Hall Road, etc. So in that area, but this is particularly heavy patching on Browns Creek Road. Councillors, any discussion or comments about the 3 dot points that were existing or the 4th dot point for inclusion? If not, all in favour of the recommendation? Aye. Against? Carried. Councillors, item number 22, Local Traffic Committee, new delegation instrument. Recommendation there, 4 parts to it. Do I have a mover? Councillor Newstead has moved that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hutchings. Councillors, discussion or debate or on this item? If not, just a quick clarification through the General Manager to the Director of Infrastructure. Is the state government just shifting around and wanting to reclassify? Why has it done this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there were 2 authorisation and delegation instruments which this supersedes. I believe it's just to provide clarity on the role of the now Traffic Forum and their powers. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions with regard to this recommendation? If not, I do have one more through the General Manager to the Director of Infrastructure. So is this a watering down, or as in, is there more delegation to you as a Director and the staff to do minor, like no stopping or something like that? So is there that pretty well how it's going to fit?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are delegations that fall to the General Manager and then through to myself. We're proposing to use the Local Traffic Forum as it already has. However, if we receive application for any prescribed signage which we deem urgent, we would go ahead and install them and report the work completed to the forum. Or if there was an event that was low risk to council, we would also approve those externally.
Thank you. Anything else from councillors? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 23, proposed road closure, Collins Street, Carcoar. Now, I think there is a councillor that wants to move it with a possible change.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So Councillor Johnston wants to move, so can you suggest your possible change, and then I'll ask for a seconder.
Okay. In the first item to be recommended for approval, I'd like the adding of to top of bank at the end of the sentence after the word road closure. This is to...
So we'll just wait for that to be added, then I'll get a
sorry.
seconder, then I'll ask for your explanation.
Yep.
So we've got that. So do I have a seconder for this recommendation? Councillor Goswich has seconded it. So now Councillor Johnston, you may explain why.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is different periods in New South Wales history of land grants where up to a certain date people could claim ad medium phylum aqua and therefore claim half of a waterway, and as this road closure abuts a waterway, I think it's imperative that we stipulate that it's to the top of the bank and therefore no claim can be made over the waterway.
A very good amendment. Councillors, any other discussion on the original or with the inclusion of the to the top of bank as an inclusion? And that will, just a question through the General Manager to the Director of Infrastructure, that will have no difference or impact on the proposed $30,000 sale value? You're not on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that will cause no issue here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Councillors, item number 24, vegetation policy recommendation in two parts. Do I have a mover or is there an amendment? Councillor Goswich.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to defer this policy for further discussion at a workshop and to work through some just some issues that I can see in the policy.
Do I have a seconder for a deferment? I think I'm inundated. Councillor Newstead, I think, was the first for a seconder. So Councillor Goswich moved, Councillor Newstead seconded. Do we have any discussion about the deferment, councillors? If not, all in favour of deferring this item? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 25, development application 2025-0047, erection of a detached shed outbuilding on lot 5 DP 1090642, which is 8 Blewett Close Forest Reefs. There are two parts to the recommendation. Do I have a mover? Councillor Newstead has moved that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goswich. Councillors, discussion with regard to this development application. All good? Yep. Okay. Yeah, we will have it. Sorry, so I should have actually declared a division. So we'll have to. You'll need to show hands shortly in favour, and if anyone is against. Further discussion on this item? If not, we'll have a division. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. Aye. Those against? So noted that Councillor Johnston voted against this recommendation, and the other councillors voted in favour. Just getting that clarified. Because on a division, it's important that it's noted who's voted in favour and who's voted against. Okay, councillors, that is the end of that part of the meeting. So matters to be dealt with in closed committee. So this is where we go into closed council in accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation 2021. In the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is of a kind as referred to in section 10 brackets 2 end of brackets of the Act and should be dealt with in part of the meeting closed to the media and to the public. The two items that are being considered, one is contract 11-2025 traffic management services 2025 to 2028. That's under section 10A brackets 2 end of brackets open brackets C close brackets open brackets D little I close brackets of the Local Government Act. And secondly, item number 27, contract 40-2025, construction of Richards Lane upgrade. That's under 10A bracket 2 and close brackets, open brackets C, close brackets, open brackets D, little I, close brackets of the Local Government Act. Now, the General Manager has made a declaration on item number 27 and will be leaving the meeting for that item. So just need to note that on camera. So do I have a mover for the resolution to go into closed council? Councillor Scott has moved that way and Councillor Goswich has seconded that. Councillors, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. So we'll now move into closed meeting. So council has resolved to move back into open council. There were 2 items discussed during the closed council session. The first item was contract 11-2025, traffic management services 25 to 2028. Now, council resolved that council accept the tender from Midwest Traffic Management for the provision of traffic management services number 11-2025. 2, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute documentation required to enter into the contract for this tender. And 3, delegate authority to the General Manager to extend the term of the contract for a further 2 terms of 12 months, each if contractor performance and prices are acceptable. So that was moved by Councillor Goswich and seconded by Councillor Newstead and carried by the council. The second resolution, this is contract 2025, construction of Richards Lane upgrade resolution, and this is a long resolution. I'm just getting... So, council, as in 1, that council, 1, note the tender assessment report of 40-2025 Richards Lane construction. 2, note the independent probity report by Procure Group. 3, approve the independent probity report for public release as an annex to the business paper minutes. Number 4, accept the tender from Aiken Civil Engineering for the construction of Richards Lane, portions both A and B, contract 40-2025, so 2025, for the value of $2,177,209, inclusive of GST, subject to variation. Number 5, approve the capital expenditure supplementary vote of $1,440,000 in the 25-26 operational plan for this project from the following sources. The first source, $600,000 from developer contributions. The second source, $210,000 from the Cadia Voluntary Planning Agreement. Third source, $110,000 from the 25-26 Heavy Patching Program budget. Number 4 item, $420,000 from the 2025-26 Forest Reefs Road Project Fund. And the 6th item, $100,000 from Roads to Recovery. Item number 6, delegate to the General Manager authority to execute contract documents, noting the General Manager will delegate these functions to the Director of Planning and Environmental Services. That was moved by myself as the Chair and Councillor Goswich seconded, and that motion was carried. Councillors and community, that's the conclusion of tonight's council meeting at 7:21 p.m. Thank you for your attendance this evening, and we will meet in September for the next council meeting. Thank you.